At the royal banquet when I was 15, my stepsister handed me a spiked drink, unaware of the trap. I fell for it and ended up publicly blackmailing the young Marquis into marrying me. The entire capital sneered at me, and the servants, mocking disdain in the Marquis household, weighed on me like a suffocating burden. Even though the young Marquis set aside past grievances after our marriage, treating me with mutual respect and conjugal harmony, I knew this was merely out of his refinement and sense of duty. My life was one of constant trepidation, like walking on thin ice, fearing a single misstep, only to die in the end with resentment and regret. Opening my eyes again, I had a second chance. But this time, my stepsister chose to drink that wine herself and ran to that secluded villa. The young Marquis, passing that door again, heard someone calling for help. The moment he saw my stepsister disheveled, the foot he was about to step through the door retracted. Bang! The moment I saw Cedric push open the door, withdraw his foot, and even nonchalantly close it before turning around, I almost thought I'd mistaken what I saw. The Marquis of Yong'an household was known for its impeccable family values. Cedric was a man of noble character and spotless reputation. His demeanor, as cool and detached as an immortal descended to earth, made him the most benevolent, handsome, and untainted man in Chong'an City, the one who made noble ladies swoon and dream of him day and night. In my past life, after drinking the wine my stepsister handed me, I endured unbearable heat and hastily left the banquet, hiding in that secluded courtyard. It was Cedric who found me. He moistened a silk handkerchief with cold water and gently wiped my forehead and cheeks, his movements as tender as his nature. But by then I had already lost my senses, my trembling hands climbing over his body. Later, my stepsister deliberately had a palace maid tip her off, and she came swarming in with a huge crowd of people, catching us in that scene. The emperor and empress were furious. The scandal spread like wildfire from 10 to 100. Everyone in the Shu Manor couldn't hold their heads high in Great Jean. I knelt in the ancestral hall at home for 3 days and 3 nights until I fainted. When I woke up, my father forced me to shave my head and become a nun, to spend my life with the ancient Buddha. It wasn't until just before I was to leave that the Marquis of Yong'an's residence came to propose marriage, with the 3 letters and 6 rituals. I was to be his legitimate wife, with the status of the Central Secretariat's household, and such a scandalous affair. I wasn't even fit to be a concubine of the Marquis's household. Yet the young Marquis truly had the heart of a bodhisattva. Later I married into the Marquis's household. The people of Chong'an City all said the young Marquis was unlucky to be saddled with such a shameless wanton woman, and that it was only due to his extraordinary kindness that he actually made this harlot his principal wife. On the night of our wedding, terrified, I stumbled into his deep, dark eyes. He gently wiped away the tears from the corners of my eyes and softly said, "Do not be afraid. Since I have married you, from now on, you are my wife." No one in the capital would dare to speak ill of the Marchioness of Yong'an. So he said. But I knew that anyone who had been subjected to such machinations would likely harbor resentment. That night, though he disliked me, he was still in the prime of his youth and came from a strict family. It was as if he unleashed all the years of suppressed emotions onto me. His body was scorching hot, overflowing with abundance, and burning with intensity. The Marquis of Yong'an's household had no tradition of taking concubines. Cedric, in his entire life, actually remained devoted to me alone. After marriage, I rarely went out. I dared not face the gossip and rumors from the noble ladies and matrons of the capital. Later, even my daughter Joy suffered because of my reputation, finding it difficult to marry. In the end, I lived my whole life with excessive caution. This matter has been like a thorn lodged in my heart, stuck there for a lifetime, until the very end. I passed away with lingering sorrow. Yet, truth be told, I never resented him. A man like him, whoever married him would be blessed for life. It's my fault. I ruined his entire life. Cedric slightly furrowed his brows and suddenly looked in this direction, meeting those pitch-black eyes. I snapped back to reality and fled in panic. I knew then my stepsister had also been reborn. Though I didn't understand why Cedric didn't show mercy and save my stepsister as he had in the previous life. Still, as his wife in that lifetime, I hoped he would marry a noble lady renowned throughout the capital, one of both talent and beauty, who could share mutual affection with him. A gentleman of his upright character shouldn't have to bear a lifetime burden for some inexplicable person again. What happened afterward was much the same as in the previous life. My stepsister, overcome with unbearable heat, was noticed by a passing guard who detected something amiss behind the door and entered to investigate. The two then became entangled, and a palace maid who had been bribed in advance reported the incident to the emperor. This enormous scandal spread 1,000 miles in a single day. In the front courtyard, father struck her twice across the face. "You disgraceful girl! It was only out of pity for your mother's early death, and because you've reached marriageable age, that I, against all propriety, brought a mere stepsister like you into the palace. I intended to arrange a good match for you, and yet you dared to commit such a scandalous act in public. You've utterly ruined the reputation of our Secretariat drafter's household." Vivian clung to her father's leg, sobbing. "Father, I only went out because I was worried about elder sister. It must be her who harmed me. I beg you to see the truth clearly. Father, clear my name. I implore you." Her father shook her off violently, roaring in fury, still making excuses. "Did your sister also force you to commit adultery with the guard?" The illegitimate daughter was left speechless. Father issued his final ultimatum. "In 3 days, you'll be married off to that guard in a simple sedan chair. Otherwise, hang yourself at home to preserve the reputation of our Zhongshuxian residence." With these words, father turned and strode away, his sleeves flaring. Vivian's face turned deathly pale. I gave her a fleeting glance before turning to leave. Vivian suddenly grabbed my skirt, her sharp voice stern. "Elena, you did this, didn't you? The one who should have arrived tonight was clearly the young Marquis. Were you the one who interfered? It must be you. If it weren't for you, I would be the glorious Marchioness of Yongin. Cedric would marry me. He would respect me. I would have wealth and honor and be cherished for life. It's all you. It's you." I shook off her hand, my foot grinding over her fingers, listening to her screams, and said expressionlessly, "Vivian, you have done too many unrighteous deeds, and you will surely bring about your own destruction. When you marry in the future, remember to do more good deeds to accumulate virtue for your deceased mother." With those words, I turned and walked out of the ancestral hall. Behind me came her cries, half maddened, half anguished. "It shouldn't have been like this. It shouldn't have been like this. Why was it Cedric who saved you while all I met was a mere guard? Ah, why is this happening?" The moment I stepped out of the ancestral hall, a gentle breeze brushed against me. I looked up at the bright moon overhead, as if all the unbearable burdens that had weighed me down in my past life, those heavy shackles that constrained me, had finally settled into dust and been swept clean away. My stepsister, in a small sedan chair, quietly married. My mother worried herself sick over my marriage. But because I was affected by my stepsister, I had no choice but to postpone my engagement discussions for 3 months. My mother had her eye on Nathan, the son of the Grand Tutor. He was my childhood sweetheart, and we were considered a good match. That day, Princess Changle invited numerous noble ladies and young masters to the palace for a gathering. At the banquet, I caught sight of Nathan. The man sat in blue robes, holding a wine cup, his features refined and elegant, meeting my gaze with a gentle smile. When the feast concluded, as I was passing through the imperial garden, someone called out to me, "Miss Elena." I turned my head. Nathan stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his posture tall and straight. I curtsied slightly to him. "Is Lord Nathan here to admire the flowers?" Nathan's gaze swept past the peach blossoms covering the trees before finally settling on me, his eyes brimming with laughter. "The world sings of the peach tree's delicate beauty, but only upon seeing Miss Elena do I truly understand what radiant splendor means." I gazed at him, certain he must already know about the proposed marriage alliance between our families. Suddenly, Nathan plucked a peach blossom branch from beside him, then bowed deeply as he presented it to me with utmost reverence. "This humble one has long admired Miss Elena. My heart shines as clearly as the bright moon, and though I've traversed countless mountains, my path leads only to you. If Miss Elena is willing, I shall soon have my family propose marriage to the Secretariat drafter's residence." My gaze faltered slightly. Through the man before me, memories of my past life surfaced. Nathan's previous life had been devoid of great fortune, yet it was blessed with smooth and uneventful days. Marrying him would not be a bad destiny. My lips parted slightly, about to speak. Just then, a clear yet authoritative voice rang out. "It seems I've arrived at an inopportune moment." Cedric, clad in a white brocade robe, slowly approached amidst the showering petals. The peach blossoms were in full bloom, making his jade-like face appear even more ethereal against their vibrant backdrop. I quickly lowered my head in greeting. Nathan also bowed. "It's rare to see the young Marquis here. What brings your lordship to the palace?" Cedric let out a light chuckle, his voice carrying an undercurrent of authority. "Must I report my reasons for entering the palace to you?" Nathan quickly lowered his head even further. "I wouldn't dare." Cedric paused for a moment, his gaze settling on me. Those eyes were deep and obscure, concealing an unfathomable intensity that made my scalp tingle momentarily. I knew it. The night my stepsister had her accident, he might have seen me. I've always understood him as my husband for life. He particularly detests those underhanded schemes in the inner household. Could he possibly think that I was the one behind the tricks that night? The next moment, I heard Cedric's deep voice speak. "Miss Elena, with what happened to your stepsister recently, you should be more restrained now. We can't afford to let any more rumors spread from the Secretariat." I twisted my fingers tightly and softly replied, "The Marquis is right. I was restless the entire night after returning." Cedric was clearly giving me a warning. Most likely, he thought I was the instigator. But it doesn't matter. As long as he doesn't tear down this thin veil of pretense, it's fine. I've never had any grudge against him before, so he has no reason to deliberately pick a fight over people or matters unrelated to him. This time, we will each have our own lives. Early the next morning, the Grand Tutor's residence sent Madame Sean and a matchmaker together to propose marriage. My mother looked at the courtyard full of betrothal gifts and said to me, "Elena, the Sean family must truly care for you and respect you. You will not suffer if you marry into their family." I lowered my head. "I will do as Mother decides." Mother was beaming, about to give her reply to the matchmaker, when a servant boy suddenly rushed in from outside. "Madam, Master, eldest young lady, the Marquis of Yongan's estate. They've also come to propose." I was stunned. My whole family was stunned. My mother only came to her senses after the servant reported twice. The old Marchioness, who had come to visit, paused at the sight of the courtyard full of betrothal gifts, then arrogantly ordered the servants carrying her gifts to place the golden Nanma gift boxes on top of those sent by the Grand Tutor's mansion. She held my hand and said with a smile, "Indeed, you are a lotus emerging from water with the beauty of a jade flower. No wonder my son fell in love with you at first sight." I looked at this woman who had been my mother-in-law in my previous life and asked groggily, "Love at first sight, indeed?" The Dowager Marchioness nodded. "My son said that during the royal palace banquet, the eldest Miss Elena displayed both grace and intelligence, truly the model of noble ladies in the capital, the perfect choice to become the Marchioness of Yongan." I didn't believe a single word of it. The Dowager Marchioness continued, "My son has known the eldest son of the Secretariat drafter's household since childhood. They're as close as brothers. Moreover, his sister's birth characters align perfectly with my son's. Truly a match made in heaven. My son has made his intentions clear. He will marry none but you. That's why he had me come first thing in the morning to deliver the betrothal gifts." With that, the old Marchioness shot a glance at Madame Sean, who was standing to the side with a visibly sour expression. "I'm not too late, am I?" The crowd. I remember my mother-in-law from my past life didn't treat me this way back then. In my past life, when I married into the Marquis household, this old Marchioness never openly gave me trouble, but her obvious dislike was plain to see in her eyes. Even the servants treated me with cold contempt. My status was already inferior to that of the Marquis household, and later even the young ladies from the extended family dared to splash hot tea on me. If it weren't for Cedric protecting me, I might have perished a few years earlier under such suffocating oppression. Later, when Cedric directly seized the household authority from the old dowager and bestowed it upon me, those people no longer dared to trample over me. Only then could I finally catch my breath. The old Marchioness squeezed my hand, then turned her gaze to my mother and father. "No rush. Let Miss Elena and Madame Yun consider carefully. The position of mistress in our Marquis household will forever remain open for Miss Elena." Before departure, the old Marchioness cast a sidelong glance, throwing a challenging look at Madame Sean, whose face had turned ashen beside her. The turn of events had taken me completely by surprise. The news that the Grand Tutor's residence and the Marquis of Yeoman's household had come to propose marriage on the same day soon spread throughout the capital. Mother came to ask for my opinion. After pondering for a long time, I only said 4 words. "High gates are hard to marry into." Mother sighed meaningfully and said, "How could I not know? But if we reject them, we might offend the Marquis household." "That won't happen," I replied. "The young Marquis is not a petty person. Mother, you don't have to reject them outright and risk offending the Marquis household. Just wait a few days, then explain the situation to them tactfully and in detail." Mother didn't speak, but she agreed with my thoughts. For several days, I didn't leave the house, avoiding the idle gossip outside. I saw Cedric again 7 days later at a mid-autumn palace banquet hosted by the Empress. The daughter of the Chancellor, Serena, who had always been at odds with me, stood up and said in front of everyone, "Your Majesty Empress, I have heard that the legitimate daughter of the Secretariat Director's household, Elena, is exceptionally skilled in dance, with her performance of the Startled Swan renowned throughout the capital. Since all the ministers are gathered here today, and your majesties are in high spirits, why not let everyone witness her talent?" As soon as the words fell, the Emperor and Empress frowned. My gaze turned cold. Just a few months ago, my stepsister had caused a scandal, and at this banquet, I had been doing my utmost to remain inconspicuous and well-behaved. Now, the mere mention of a daughter from the Yun family displeased the Emperor and Empress. Yet Serena insisted on stirring trouble for me. Yet the Emperor merely waved his hand. Granted. I had no choice but to change into dance attire and perform before the court. As the music began, I slowly retreated a few steps, my feet turning lightly, sleeves fluttering like water, pouring all my effort into performing the dance Startled Swan. This dance was a piece I had practiced countless times since childhood. Every note and rhythm was executed with perfect precision. When it ended, the palace banquet hall fell into complete silence. All faces were filled with admiration. Only Serena wore an expression of extreme displeasure. The Emperor was overjoyed and exclaimed, "Excellent! 3 times in a row! If it could bring His Majesty such joy, then this ordeal was worth enduring." As I stepped out, I met a pair of intensely captivating eyes. Cedric held a wine cup with his slender fingers, his profound gaze fixed upon me. Those eyes were clearly as clear and gentle as ever. Yet I inexplicably caught a glimpse of sharpness and aggression in them. My heart skipped a beat. "Marquis, those Yun family girls are nothing good." The Yun family's illegitimate daughter was caught in public with a guard, and the legitimate daughter has been secretly exchanging tokens with the Grand Tutor's son. She is utterly unworthy of you. Only I am fit to be your wife. I had just changed my clothes and was about to return to the hall when passing along the cobblestone path, I suddenly heard Serena's voice. Serena and I were at odds, not just because we'd been squabbling since childhood. It was also because she loved Cedric and had loved him since she was a little girl. In my previous life, after I married into the Marquis mansion, she resorted to every trick in the book to become a concubine there. She dragged it out until she was 20, becoming an old maid, until the entire Great Jean understood that Cedric would never take her in. In the end, the Prime Minister and his wife could no longer endure the gossip, so they hastily married her off to the youngest son of a third-rank censor's family. In this lifetime, after the Marquis of Yeoman's family came to propose marriage, she must have viewed me as even more of a thorn in her side. "Miss Serena," a cold, deep voice spoke, each word deliberate and authoritative. "This Marquis holds no romantic feelings for Miss Serena. I hope Miss Serena will abandon such thoughts. Let me also remind Miss Serena, if you ever harbor ill intentions toward Miss Elena again, this Marquis will not be lenient." Serena's face turned ashen, and she stumbled backward a few steps. Then, covering her mouth with a silk handkerchief, she ran off crying. I thought, I really shouldn't have come here. I turned around about to quietly slip away. A sharp, cold gaze landed on my back as the man chuckled lightly. Since when has Miss Elena developed this habit of eavesdropping by the wall? My spine stiffened, awkwardly turning back. I bowed in greeting. Young Marquis. I merely dropped my hairpin earlier and came here to search for it. I had no intention of eavesdropping. Could the young Marquis, in light of that time in the Imperial Gardens when you also eavesdropped on me once, let this matter pass? As soon as I spoke, I regretted it. For 50 years after our marriage in my previous life, he indulged me greatly, which has now made me somewhat tactless in my speech. He is a Marquis. I am merely the daughter of a palace secretary. How could I possibly talk about settling the score with him? What do you think? Those deep eyes fixed on my face, and he countered. I deliberated before saying, the Marquis is magnanimous. He surely wouldn't mind. Cedric said nothing, merely looking at me with a half-smile, his tall, noble figure taking 2 steps towards me. I was startled. With so many eyes and ears in the palace, I quickly curtsied and stepped back. The Mid-Autumn Festival banquet isn't over yet. My status is humble, and if I return late, I fear the Emperor and Empress will be displeased. I shall take my leave first. I hadn't walked 2 steps. Behind me, Cedric suddenly spoke with a meaningful smile. Miss Elena's startled swan dance is truly magnificent and unparalleled in its grace. I turned my head, lowering my gaze to the face I had stared at for nearly 50 years in my previous life. In that moment, I don't know what came over me, but I instinctively lowered my head and opened my mouth, saying, "My lord flatters me." Cedric froze, first startled, then a smile deepening at the corners of his lips. For several days after the Mid-Autumn Festival banquet, I couldn't forget Cedric's expression at that time. Every time I think of it, my face flushes red, and I don't know what to do. I'll be too ashamed to face anyone. Fortunately, that day, Mother brought me good news. Your father has already spoken to the Marquis Mansion about refusing the marriage. If you truly like Nathan, I'll instruct your father to finalize the marriage soon. It's not about love, just suitability. My previous life was too stifling, too arduous. This time I want to live differently. I nodded. At the Marquis of Yonan's manor, the study, Cedric, dressed in a dark robe, was painting at his desk with a brush in hand. The scent of ink permeated the room, and on the rice paper, a woman seemed to leap gracefully to life. The woman wore a black and gold cloud-embroidered blouse with a moon-white phoenix-tail skirt, its hem adorned with irises. She stood beneath a peach tree, radiantly beautiful. The final stroke of ink fell. Cedric stared at the person in the painting for a long time. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched his thin lips as if he had thought of something. Just then, outside, a young servant hesitantly entered to report. Marquis, the Jomshusher residents. They've rejected the marriage proposal. Cedric's brows furrowed instantly, his usually composed and dignified posture suddenly rigid. His voice dropped sharply. What did you say? Perhaps due to a lack of appetite these past 2 days, I suddenly caught a cold, my whole body burning with fever. I lay in bed for a long time, losing all sense of day and night. In a daze, I had a dream. When I was 7 years old, I entered the palace with my mother. She was summoned by the imperial concubine for a reprimand and couldn't take me along. So, she had the maid Ivy take me to play in the plum garden. There, I encountered a group of noble girls led by Serena. The little maids behind Serena noticed the emerald misty cloud dress I was wearing, which was almost identical to Serena's, and exclaimed, "Sister Serena, her dress is the same as yours. Wow, she looks so beautiful in it. She's much prettier than Sister Serena. All of you shut up." Serena's face was flushed with anger at the time. She ordered the maids and old women beside her. What is she to dare wear the exact same dress as me? Go over there and strip her clothes off. The maids and old women hesitated. Miss, this is the daughter of the Secretariat. Serena was young at the time, but her temper was not small. She said sternly, I am the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister, and my aunt is the current Empress. I will take responsibility if anything happens. But if you dare not listen to my orders, I will tell father to sell all of you when I get back. The few people were badly frightened. Then, gritting their teeth, they walked towards me. Ivy was held firmly to the ground by two maids. I watched as an old woman lunged at me, and with quick reflexes, I lunged towards Serena. Serena was knocked down by me. My father is a secretary in the Ministry of War. My mother is the daughter of General Xin Yuan, and my three older brothers are all towering military commanders. I've been as strong as an ox since I was little. Incredibly formidable. No girl my age was my match. I clawed and scratched at her. Serena sobbed incessantly. The maids and nannies noticed something was wrong and rushed over, rescuing Serena from beneath me. Serena was furious. She had people hold me down and gave me 2 slaps. I struggled like a wild animal, but several adults pinned me down tightly. Ivy was crying over there. Serena kept hitting and cursing at me. My lips were split and bleeding. My vision darkened and stars danced before my eyes. Whose little girl is this? So fierce at such a young age? A clear and gentle voice rang out, causing everyone to turn toward its source. The youth was dressed in white, his features as exquisite as a painting, pure and untainted like the bright moon. Serena froze in surprise, then immediately let go of me. Brother Cedric, she explained softly. Brother Cedric, it's not like that. She offended me in public just now, so I taught her a small lesson. The young maids behind Serena all echoed her in unison. So it's Miss Serena. Cedric walked over with his hands behind his back. Just now I heard the maid next to the Empress looking for you. Perhaps there's something important. Upon hearing this, Serena immediately grew anxious. She bid farewell to Cedric and left with her maids and old women. All her little followers dispersed along with her. Cedric walked up to me and handed me a white porcelain medicine bottle. This is excellent Jinchuan medicine for treating wounds. You are still young. Don't let it scar. I stood there dumbfounded and didn't take it. Cedric paused for a moment, then crouched down. He opened the porcelain jar's lid, his slender fingers scooping up a trace of ointment to dab at the corner of my mouth. I stared at him blankly, tugging at my sore lips as I murmured softly, You're really good looking. The plum garden was silent except for the whisper of the wind. He chuckled low in his throat. How good looking? I counted on my fingers. You're better looking than my eldest brother, better looking than my second brother, and better looking than my third brother. You're the best looking person I've ever seen. Cedric's smile deepened at the corners of his lips, and his eyes held a playful glint. If your brothers heard that, they'd come looking for me to settle accounts. I didn't answer, letting him continue to wipe my entire face clean. As he was about to stand up, I suddenly tugged at the hem of his clothes and asked blankly, When I grow up, can you marry me? A moment of silence hung in the air. Cedric was stunned. Ivy's eyes widened and she quickly explained to Cedric. Young Master Cedric, our young lady is just speaking innocently. Plum blossom petals drifted onto his shoulders. He stood up, ruffled my hair, and smiled gently. Little sprout, let's talk about it when you're grown up. The dream ended abruptly. I opened my eyes, rubbed my throbbing temples, and felt my throat dry and scratchy. Just as I was about to call Ivy, the window suddenly moved, accompanied by the night wind outside. A figure climbed in through the window. Upon seeing who it was, my eyes widened in disbelief. Cedric chuckled meaningfully in his throat. Little Elena, no longer calling me husband? The man still carried the chill of the night dew, his gaze playfully fixed on me. I bit my lip, my face flushed again with heat, and my chest trembled with anger because of him. How did I never know in my previous life that Cedric, the young Marquis, who was so upright and honorable, was actually a thief who sneaked into a lady's boudoir? Disregarding propriety, the collapse of rights and music, this is outrageous. Cedric, however, was much calmer than I. He walked up to me and handed me a white porcelain bottle. This is a medicine for dispelling cold that I got from the divine physician Mu. Take 1 pill a day and you'll be fine in a couple of days. I lowered my gaze, my eyes unfocused. This movement, these hands, this white porcelain bottle, they inexplicably aligned perfectly with what I saw in my dream. Was this dream real? But why have I never had any impression of it before? Cedric has no reason to harm me. I reached out and took it, eating one in front of him, then dismissed him. Young Marquis, you should leave quickly. If you don't leave soon and someone discovers us, it won't sound good for either of our reputations. Cedric glanced at me, his thin lips slowly parting. I just want to ask you, do you truly intend to marry Nathan? Marriage is a matter of parental decree and the matchmaker's word. No, Cedric said in a deep voice. Who I marry is hardly for the young Marquis to dictate. Cedric was silent for a long time, his thin lips moving. That night at the palace banquet when your stepsister had her accident, I saw you. I subtly gripped the bedsheet beneath my hand, calmly stating, so what? This has nothing to do with me, and it's all in the past. I thought something had happened to you. So in my haste, I followed you out to check. I was suddenly stunned. It's good that you're all right. Cedric's deep eyes gazed intently at me, his voice low, gentle, and melodious. Little Elena, I am fond of you. My chest vibrated. As I lifted my gaze, I met his burning eyes, a heat that made my heart race. In all my lives, past and present, it was the first time I had seen such an undisguised, intense affection in Cedric's eyes. My forehead still ached. I was momentarily unable to process the information. He continued to look at me, his voice clear and melodious. I came here this time to get an answer. If you like Nathan, then so be it. If you don't like Nathan. He paused for a moment, suddenly bent down before me, restraining himself with utmost propriety, and spoke word by word. I am willing to offer 1,000 pieces of gold as betrothal gifts, with a bridal procession spanning 10 miles, to proclaim to the world that I shall marry Elena. Once having seen the ocean, other waters seem unworthy. Having witnessed the clouds over Mount Wu, all others pale in comparison. After Cedric left, I was still a bit dazed. Perhaps the cold was too severe, and I was hallucinating. When I woke up again, the white porcelain vase by the bedside prominently reminded me that the little thief who had stolen into my boudoir last night had indeed been there. And that shocking line, once you've seen the ocean, no other water will do. Once you've seen the clouds of Wu, no other clouds are clouds. I hadn't misheard it. It took me 2 lifetimes to realize that Cedric's appearance in the rear garden during the palace banquet that night wasn't a coincidence after all. Could it really have been because of me? I can't deny it. When I rejected the marriage proposal before, apart from some lingering guilt from my past life, there was another important reason. I thought anyone could have been his wife. No matter who it was, he would be considerate towards her. It wasn't just me. But that line, beyond Wu, there are no clouds, made me believe it was just I thought so. When my mother found me, I was still somewhat out of sorts. Mother told me that the Marquis estate seemed to have accepted the annulment of the engagement from the Jomshusher quite calmly. There was a drought in the south, and the young Marquis had received orders early this morning to leave the capital and head to the border to provide disaster relief. I felt somewhat dazed. After a long while, Mother looked at me. Last time I wanted to ask you, how do you know so much about that young Marquis? And when did you catch his eye? But now the outcome is settled. Even if you had feelings for him, I'm afraid it's too late. I buried my head in Mother's embrace and mumbled, I don't want to marry yet. I still want to stay with you a while longer. Mother gently stroked my hair and whispered, oh, you. The medicine was excellent. My cold was cured within 2 days. I spent my days at home brewing wine and composing poetry, occasionally hearing news of Cedric from the streets and alleys. He had been gone for over a month. Rumors say he wielded thunderous methods to purge corrupt officials embezzling military provisions, yet showed bodhisattva-like compassion toward every disaster victim, such as the way of a true gentleman. At month's end, I encountered my stepsister again. Vivian had sneaked out while her guard husband was absent. Kneeling before our father, she tearfully confessed how the guard treated her merely as a purse. Her aunt's dowry had long been squandered by him. The guard was also a chronic drunkard who frequently beat and scolded her. If she failed to earn silver for his liquor, his violence would escalate without mercy. Father's face was cold. He had no intention of intervening on her behalf. When no one was paying attention, she turned and slipped into my courtyard. At that moment, I was pruning my favorite crabapple blossom when I heard hurried footsteps behind me. I turned to look. Vivian came running toward me, a short sword in hand. Her face twisted with ferocity. Why must you be the Marquis? Wife in both lifetimes. You wretch, die. My pupils contracted. Her attack was too sudden. There was no way to avoid it now. The next instant, a large hand forcefully gripped the sharp blade of the dagger. Blood instantly gushed from that hand and streamed down the weapon. I finally saw clearly the white-clad figure who had stepped in front of me. Thud. Vivian was kicked flying backward. Cedric growled at the petrified servant standing nearby. Go report to the authorities now. Vivian was taken away. Cedric turned to look at me, his refined face breaking into a smile. Have you missed me this past month, Elena? I was lost in thought, recalling how in our past life, he had said the same words upon returning from a long absence. I took a step back. Young Marquis, you overstep your bounds. But I miss you terribly. His gaze was fixed on me. A letter cannot convey my thoughts of you, nor can my pen express the feelings in my heart. Good thing no one else was here. Otherwise, I truly wouldn't know how to compose myself. However, the next moment, he uttered another sentence that shocked me. I have come this time to propose marriage. The front yard, my mother and father were shocked once again. After all, what kind of marriage proposal involves the man himself showing up instead of a matchmaker? I watched my father and mother treat him with reverence, yet also with bewilderment. I heard Cedric bow gently and speak with solemnity. I have long admired Miss Elena, tossing and turning, unable to quell this affection. I hope Lord Secretary will grant this Marquis an opportunity. With this vow of white-haired devotion, inscribed on crimson paper, may our maple leaf pledge be recorded in the book of love. Hiding behind the eaves, my ears burned crimson. My parents, after all, made the decision and agreed. My mother said that the young Marquis, after being rejected the first time, not only didn't get angry or embarrassed, but even came to our door a second time himself. He must be sincere and truly seeking marriage, which is rare and commendable. My father said that if he refused the young Marquis again, he feared his official position would be in jeopardy. And so their opinions converged. On the day of my wedding, all three of my brothers came home, crying their eyes out as they saw me off. Especially my eldest brother, he wept the hardest. If anyone dares to bully you, just tell me. I'll grab a knife and head straight to the Marquis' residence to carve him up. I have to say, my eldest brother is truly courageous. As Cedric said, on the wedding day, gongs and drums roared. A 10-mile procession of red dowry, an unprecedented spectacle. This time, the eyes of the common folk on the street no longer held scorn and mockery, but rather admiration and envy. Red silk hung high at the entrance of the Marquis residence with lanterns strung in rows. The sound of firecrackers echoed into the night. Cedric lifted my red bridal veil, his lips curling into a pleased and satisfied smile. My wife is exceptionally beautiful today, radiant as spring blossoms and pure as autumn moonlight. And I was no longer as terrified and panicked as I had been in my previous life. I met his gaze, calm and composed. Cedric brought over the ceremonial wedding wine, and we drank it together. Afterwards, as I had done for the past few decades, I reached out calmly to undo his waistband. Cedric, however, stopped me with his hand. My lady, oh. At this moment, should I act a bit more reserved, a bit more bashful? I withdrew my hand. My gaze suddenly fell on the corner of his mouth where a faint bruise marred the man's face. What happened here? I asked. Cedric was slightly taken aback, then smiled and said, I accidentally bumped into something. With that, he fell silent. He grasped my hand, slowly pressing me beneath him. His gaze fixed on me for a few seconds before he seemed unable to restrain himself any longer. His thin lips captured mine in a fervent kiss, a room filled with spring's passion. Cedric's side story, truth be told, before encountering that little dumpling in the plum garden, I'd heard about this younger sister countless times from the eldest of the Yun family. Yun Buffon had been chattering incessantly in my ear. Do you have a younger sister? I do. Can your sister sweetly call you big brother? Mine can. Will your sister save you a piece of osmanthus cake when she sneaks a bite? Mine will. And so throughout the Northern Frontier Army, nearly everyone knew that General Yun had an utterly adorable younger sister. When I returned to the capital at 14, Yun Buffon deliberately came up to me and handed me a crookedly drawn portrait, saying with great seriousness, Military training is tough. I haven't been home in half a year. When you get back to the capital, if you happen to see my younger sister, could you check for me if she's grown any taller? I agreed. But in my heart, I thought, the imperial city is so vast. How could one simply bump into someone just by wishing for it? Besides, Yun Buffon's drawing skills were truly atrocious. At first glance, one might mistake the drawing for a fanged demoness rather than a little girl. Yet, I still recognized the youngest Yun sister from that portrait because the Yun Mrs. Uneven Teeth when she cried matched the painting perfectly. The little girl was at that age when baby teeth fall out, one front tooth already knocked out by Serena. She neither cried nor made a fuss. After I rescued her, she even solemnly complimented my appearance. Good looking. What an uncultured adjective. She even said I was better looking than her eldest brother, second brother, and third brother combined. I found this remark most reasonable. It really should be repeated in front of Yun Buffon. But this little girl actually asked me, when I grow up, will you marry me? I was stunned. Boss never mentioned this girl was so precocious. While pondering whether applying medicine like that was inappropriate for a mature-minded girl, I replied, let's talk about it when you've grown up first. The little girl looked dejected and turned to leave. Not far away, I overheard the maid beside the little girl say, Miss, you shouldn't say such things carelessly. The little girl tilted her head up, kissed through her teeth with a grin, and said, my mother told me, when you see someone handsome, you must strike first. And besides, Serena seems to like him a lot, so I'll just snatch him away. I'll make her so mad. Such a clever little devil. Quite clever indeed. I couldn't help but laugh. Upon returning, I recounted this to Bosyun. Bosyun didn't believe me and even got into a fight with me. Later, he even clamored to drag me home to ask my little sister directly. But I was so busy with official duties back then that I rarely returned to the capital. Only occasionally, through old Yun's words, could I learn bits of news about the little girl. Hey! My sister made lotus seed pastries for me today with her own hands. I brought some. Want to try? Nice outer robe, right? My sister picked it out for me herself. As time passed, the little girl gradually grew up, and Yun Buffon grew worried again. My sister has grown so beautiful she could make fish sink and birds alight, outshine the moon and shame flowers. No man who sees her could ever forget her. Who knows which lucky rascal will end up with her someday. My stepsister isn't young anymore either. Her birth mother climbed her way up from the bed, and she's taught my stepsister to be quite cunning. My sister is so innocent. I hope she doesn't suffer at her hands. Oh, right. My sister has grown from this tall to this tall now. She definitely won't have such poor taste as before. How about we go stand before her together and compare? He gestured first at waist height, then at chest level. Has the little girl grown so big already? In my mind, I inexplicably recalled those words spoken before parting that day. When I grow up, will you marry me? This innocent child's remark, spoken without filter, has stayed with me until now. I saw the little girl again in a narrow alley of Chong'an City, where a shop sold hibiscus pastries. I recognized her at first glance. The young girl stood gracefully in the bloom of youth. A single glance was enough to make one unable to look away. Yun Buffon's words were indeed true. Big brother is coming home soon, and he loves the hibiscus pastries from this shop the most. Let's buy more to prepare for him. He'll surely be delighted, she said with a gentle smile to the little maid beside her. Me. Truly unexpected, yet somehow not surprising. The young girl finished buying the hibiscus pastries and headed back with her little maid, passing by me as if no one recognized me. A child's memory, is it really that poor? Our third meeting took place in the Empress's Phoenix Hall. That day, the Empress had summoned many noble ladies. When the young girl saw me, she seemed to finally remember who I was. Then, like the others beside her, she bowed to me with gentle and quiet grace. As she lowered her eyes, her long lashes curled upwards, and at the corner of her eye was a tiny red mole. The ancient texts say such a mark is called a beauty spot. That night, the mole entered my dreams, languid autumn waves gently rippling. After waking, I cursed myself while washing the sheets all night. The next time we met was at that imperial palace banquet. She and her stepsister walked out, one after the other. I remembered what Boss Yun said, and feeling uneasy, I followed them out. When I reached the entrance of the villa, I heard cries for help from inside. My heart tightened and I immediately pushed the door open. Inside, it wasn't her. It's good that it wasn't her. As long as it wasn't her, it didn't matter who it was. I immediately closed the door behind me. Yet, I unexpectedly saw her at the corner. Though the little lass is mischievous and cunning, she's kind-hearted and innocent. She couldn't have done such a thing. Most likely that illegitimate daughter tried to harm others and ended up suffering the consequences herself. Even if she did it, so what? In the inner household, one needs some ruthless means to protect oneself. Feeling fortunate in my heart, I finally let out a sigh of relief. The scent of that girl once again entered my dreams after I returned. Tossing and turning, I could neither sleep nor forget. I began to clearly realize that I harbored unspeakable thoughts about her and started looking forward to our next meeting. Fortunately, that day didn't take too long to arrive. Deep in the garden, Nathan was pouring out his heart to her. The little girl had grown up. It was time to discuss marriage. Nathan broke off a peach branch for her. She seemed ready to take it the next second. The thought of her becoming someone else's wife, cooking for another, made me restless, as if ants were swarming and gnawing at my chest. I shamelessly stepped forward. I admit it was a bit dishonorable. That night when I returned, I was deeply unsettled. Others say I am gentle as jade, a noble and upright gentleman. But no one knows, the moment I saw her in the Imperial Garden today, a predatory desire stirred in my heart. What does it matter if her heart belongs to that Nathan? I could use my power to take her, to force her into marriage. Whenever I wish, she must be mine. For the first time, I examined this side of myself. Turns out I'm no upright gentleman, just a petty man enslaved by lust. After just a few brief encounters, I had already tucked her away in my heart. Love knows not its own depth until the hour of separation. The desire to marry her reached its peak. I sent my mother to propose the betrothal, fearing that if I delayed even a moment, someone else might take her first. I was rejected. The little girl doesn't like me. I was down for a few days, drinking all day long, and even old Yun wrote me a letter from the border to mock me. Ha! You of all people want to marry my sister? You got rejected. Ha ha. I can't force her into marriage. She'll hate me. After much deliberation, I did the most outrageous thing in my life. I snuck into her boudoir at night. I needed to ask her directly and understand. I was very satisfied with the answer I received. She had no real feelings for Nathan. Actually, I still wanted to ask, you once said you would marry me. Do you still remember? But in the end, I didn't ask. She probably had long forgotten the words of a child. The next day, I was ordered to go to the southern borders to provide disaster relief. I didn't want to leave. I was afraid that if I left, Nathan would take advantage of my absence and get ahead of me again. Boss Yun, writing a book, told me with a sympathetic tone. I've told my mother about this, asking her not to rush into agreeing to the Shan family's marriage proposal. To give you a fair chance to compete. For the first time, I replied to him with those two words, thank you. But it was quite clear. Boss Yun also didn't think I would succeed in my marriage proposal. After the disaster relief ended, the first thing I did upon returning to the capital was to propose marriage. Nathan could afford to wait, but I couldn't. I had to propose in person, strike first to gain the advantage. The Zhongshuxian couple seemed quite satisfied with my sincerity. This marriage proposal went more smoothly than I had imagined. The news reached Boss Yun's ears, and his face looked as if he had lost both parents. They really agreed? Yeah. Boss Yun asked again. Little sister agreed too? I nodded once more. Yeah. Elder brother Yun's brows furrowed so tightly they could have crushed a fly to death. Impossible. Little sister doesn't fancy your type. Me? What kind does my fiancé like then? Yun Bufan. Little sister prefers burly and robust military officers like me. Definitely not someone like you. Me? I see. Yun Bufan paused for a moment before suddenly asking, when did you start setting your sights on my little sister? Well, Yun Bufan looked at me with resentment. You didn't target my sister because of me, did you? I felt guilty and remained silent. Yun Bufan grew furious. You beast! I treated you like a brother. And you want to be my brother-in-law. I don't want to fight him, so I'll take my leave first. But this fight was inevitable after all. The night before the wedding, he invited me to drink under the beams while admiring the moon. In the end, he threw the wine bottle aside and said furiously, "Let's just have it out with our fists. I can't hold back anymore." With a bruised lip, I entered the bridal chamber. The moment I lifted the veil, I nearly held my breath. She was as beautiful as in my dreams. I pressed her beneath me, kissing the corner of her lips, feeling a satisfaction unlike anything before. That little banana sprout who'd made me promise to marry her since childhood, round and round, she became my wife.